Hello, Pisces. Welcome or welcome back to Mind, Body and Heart Tarot Therapy. Here's a new setting. It's a little bit weird. I know my tripod broke, so until I receive a new one, this is it. Now, this is your reading for April 2020. Well, it's April and I think beginning of May, because there seems to always be a delay. You have Six of Swords as your current energy. Yes, because the internet here is actually really slow, so it's very hard to put up these messages for you. Four of Swords is your challenge, like actually most of the readings. It's fascinating to see how as a collective we tend to all have this challenge of keeping our mind resting, being keeping this meditative state and a mind structure. Okay, let's see what's your focus, Pisces. So this is a general reading for Pisces, Sun, Moon and rising sign. If it resonates, it resonates, and if it doesn't, then it's not your reading. Don't try to stretch it or make it fit in. Use your own intuition to know how and the story applies to you. This is a Two of Wands as your focus. So the thing with the readings that I do is that I'm not trying that hard to actually guess what your story is. It's more like figuring out where you're at in terms of energy. If you're like like breaking it down on the four suits of the tarot, we can see if we are too much in our body, too much in our mind, too much focused on one thing or another. Nine of Pentacles, as your advice. And how we can work with that and how we can work with ourselves. Okay, so you have the King of Cups as your future energy. Beautiful. And bottom of the deck you have this Knight of Pentacles as the underlying energy. Okay, I'm going to pull this up a little bit so they can all fit somehow. I can barely see them. Alright. Now I'm going to pull out the clarifiers. Hope you're well, Pisces. It's a pretty crazy time for all of us. Eight of Wands as your current energy, along with the Six of Swords. Beautiful. And I really hope that you're doing well, that you have what you need, and that that you're going to use whatever resources you have at your hand the best you can to keep yourself safe, but also to keep yourself Ten of Swords and the Three of Swords as a challenge, along with the Four of Swords. Also to keep yourself, still at your heart space. That's the thing. Whenever we get into fight and flight mode, or whenever we get into defensive mode, survival mode, we tend to be less compassionate, less caring, less empathetic, and less present. And these are qualities that we can hold when we are in the, in the energy of love and loving compassion and loving kindness that the Buddhists talk about. Wheel of Fortune as your focus. Queen of Wands as your advice, along with the Nine of Pentacles. Judgment with the King of Cups as future energy. Okay, and you have Death as your underlying energy, along with the King of Pentacles. So the underlying energy is the theme of your reading. This is pretty much what is it that you're working with this month, and this period of time, really. As I said, it's like roughly 4 months, starting from whenever you see this reading, right? It's April, May, stuff like that. Okay, so you have Death and this Knight of Pentacles, and I can't help to see that you have two horses moving in the same direction. The way I look at them moving to the right, so that means the way I see it, it's moving outwards somehow, maybe coming from within and putting it out there. I see one of the horses, or one of these knights. It's bearing gifts and value stuff, and one of them is bearing the uncomfortable change that we don't want to go through. And the there's always resistance, there's always fear that we associate with death, whether it's the physical death and the end of life as we know it, or whether it's the end of something that we identify with, maybe a part of ourselves. You have the Ten of Swords here too, so it's like definitely identifying with a part of your defense mechanisms that have been working for you for a long time. And it's usually about an idea of ourselves, an idea of how life should be, or an idea of how we should be treated, or things like this. The Knight of Pentacles, though, I think that yeah, now like the characteristic of this card that comes to mind is the fact that this knight is very slow. It's not exactly moving. This horse is actually just standing there, and this knight is just like looking around to see where to plant that seed, that pentacle there, in which direction to expand his empire, his kingdom for the king. All knights talk about expansion, so it is something that you want to expand on your physical realm, maybe having to do with your living situation, maybe having to do with your livelihood somehow, your work, your business, whatever. It may just be also the way you spend your time or where you put your energy. This is like Pentacles talk about energy in a very physical sense, and something that can be easily like touched upon and quantified in a sense. So what I see here is a lot of resistance, but death takes it's is not going to wait for anyone. Whether you're ready or not, it comes. And the best that we all can do is to surrender. Death rarely ever speaks of like the death card doesn't really speak about physical death. It's as I said, it's death of a part of yourself that you think that someone who you think you are somehow. In this type of crisis, this is the time where we will see parts of ourselves that don't normally show up. Maybe, for example, I see that I am less ethical than I thought, or maybe I noticed that my hygiene wasn't as I don't know, as good as I thought, the way I wash my hands, or I can discover all kinds of stuff about ourselves. Maybe we notice that even though we were social justice warriors or whatever, whenever we are in danger ourselves, we change completely. Maybe we discover that we make use of our privilege more than we thought, and that we are much more privileged than we thought. Maybe you used to believe that I'm a victim of the world somehow, and now when I can actually make use of that privilege, I realize that I was able to be so much of a, I don't know what I just said earlier, sorry, because I had privilege. This kind of stuff, I mean, like, these are just things I'm throwing out there, but it doesn't need to be any of this. It can be something completely different, it can be something very particular to you. And what needs to die is not that part of you. That part of you is there and you just didn't see it. And it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be looked at, and taking your time with it and so on. But what is really necessary here is maybe for the idea that you are that perfect being that you thought you were, or better than, or less than, or whatever, needs to die, needs to go away. It doesn't make sense anymore. It's an identification with an idealization of yourself, not something that you really are. And yes, maybe if you see things in yourself that you don't like, it's probably your parts of your shadow self that come out, and that's a good opportunity for you to integrate that part of you. And it's not to be ashamed of, it's not to be dismissed, it's not to shove under the layers of consciousness because we can't cope with it. You can cope with it because that's why it shows up for you now. That's why you can see it. Okay. There was a... Okay, so you have the Six of Swords with the Eight of Wands as your current energy. And I think that somehow, with at least at your mind level, you're finally moving on from something, an idea of yourself, or the way you used to think about certain things. This is like the death, as I said, it takes place. And I think that your mind is probably not as resistant as I thought. Maybe actually there is resistance there, but there's also willingness to get this over with. Maybe you've just had enough. You know, these people live here not because it was they just excited to go for a journey. This is look more like refugee passing over, the sea. I just realized that this is like so. Such a current thing in Europe, right? Like the whole refugee crisis, which is still ongoing, is we just don't pay attention to it anymore. But the point is that there was no kindness for you where you were before, in terms of your mindset, in terms of whatever you were hanging on. You know, the Six of Swords is moving away from the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is a place where the mind tries to grow and to expand, but comes from a very like low range. It's like that ego mind, the lower mind that doesn't understand but knows that there's growth to be happening. And also there's the time where you get more triggered and you get more aggressive and so on. So I think that maybe you've overcame that already, and now you're in the Six of Swords where you're like, okay, we're done here. I'm gonna move away from that type of whatever you were attaching yourself to, and you're opening yourself up to a different like type of communication. You're more spiritually inclined. You seem to be able also to receive more messages in terms of healing yourself, and in terms of what are your next steps in general, where to go from here, where does this ship land, and there's something with this card that wants to come through, but I'm a little bit confused, sorry. Oh yeah, well, it's gonna come if it's gonna come, if it's not, it's not. It's good that you're moving on, it's good that you finally found. Oh yeah, the thing I want to say with this card is also about coming into service. Old sixes talk about expansion to this of the self, where we realize that we are not just me, just the unit of me that I used to believe of myself. Yeah, I had to grow to this like mental stability and figure out like where am I at, the journey from 1 to 4, where you gain an idea, and then you gain like, I don't know, the whole duality, and then the antithesis in a sense, and then the 3 is actually resolution and figuring out certain parts of your ideas and what that meant, and figuring out the self in a sense. With the 4 of Swords is like stability, right? And then the 5, as I said, is that growth that is like feels unstable and unclear and not really know where to go. That's why we're like all spikes up. And then the Six of Swords is like, okay, yeah, I got this. I understand that way is not just me, it's us. And it is like this right now. This is one of those moments in life where we realize how important it is that we are connected, that we are interconnected as a species. Just the way, like, this virus spreads, for example, just shows the connection of the world and how it started in one place and was spread everywhere, because we circulate, because we depend on each other, because we are touching each other, because we are, like, in this that sounds weird. But the same goes for everything else. We need to work together. If somebody finds the cure now, or whatever, the vaccine, whatever, I wonder how that's gonna go. If it comes from a place of just self and ego and self-serving, we're probably gonna sell it to the highest bidder. It's gonna be a complete madness. But if it comes from a place of love and humanitarian space, then it will probably put out there, and everybody, all the countries will use it, and that's it. I mean, like, I hope you see what I'm looking at here, what I'm trying to pinpoint. You are finally, like, getting out of that Five of Swords where you maybe felt that the ego was having very strong reaction, and you had for a good reason. But now you're getting more into the mindset where you're able to serve, where you're able to share, where you're able to be there for others as well. Challenging, as I said, is this Four of Swords. Yeah, you may be going out there and you may be able to put yourself out there in this sense, and you're finally leaving something painful behind, but look at all the swords energy, which is your mind again, in your challenging position. No, it's challenging to keep your mind, like, calm and relaxed, and keep that inner stability where you make sense of your own world, and like, it's a reflective state, you know who you are, that kind of stuff. And it's obviously very difficult for you to integrate the lessons of the Three of Swords. The Three of Swords is really taking in the wisdom of the lower emotions. Yeah, the lower emotions that we don't like most of the time. It's like tying up loose ends. It's like after you benefited actually from the duality of the two, where your choice comes in and other comes in, and duality and the opposites come in. With the Three of Swords, you have the possibility and the ability to connect those loose ends and to learn to apply your mind over to learn the lessons of those endings, whatever endings were, whether it's a relationship ending, whether it's the lifestyle that you used to have, a job, things like this. The Three of Swords, the swords don't harm the heart. Actually, it's more about showing how your mind can function in a very healthy way if it abides to a strong heart, when it's not coming from the ego, when it's not coming from dualism, when it comes from we are, not me versus you, but rather that type of learning and integration, heart-centered life. And with Ten of Swords, yes, there is resistance. Of course, there is resistance to let things go, to let go of the part of me that identified with whatever had been ending here. Maybe it was, it is a funny thing, like if it's a relationship, for example, who I am with a certain person, it's almost like two people create different actually every person creates a different version of themselves with each and every person they encounter. So for me, for example, to be with you, I need to be I need to enact a certain persona, right? This is how we always interact. We can't show everything or share everything no matter how much we want to. It's not about like hiding or playing around. It's just that it's almost like two people mix up an energy in order to become a certain someone. And if a relationship, for example, ends and I'm not with that certain someone in the same capacity, then that part of me, that who I was when I was with that certain someone, is gone as well. I can never be that person. I can integrate lessons. I can integrate a lot of lessons. I can integrate the part of me that I was projecting on the other person into myself. Actually, the breakups are the best teachers into what is it that we want on the next wish list for ourselves. The parts that really attracted us in the other person are the parts that we actually have within ourselves. We just don't know how to channel them, and we feel like the complex there, like we can't access that. The thing is that once we focus within ourselves, for us to find what we were again projecting on the other, that's where we really focus our energy there. We can get it. We can definitely get it. So look at your former partner or whoever you were attracted to, whatever ended, that whatever you wanted from there and hurted that it ended, that you can definitely find within yourself. And that's very, very, very invaluable information. Also, what is it that bothered you the most at the other person? It's a great information about your shadow self, and what is it that you have within yourself that you don't want to get in touch with. The things that most annoy you at the other person. Again, this can be romantic, but not necessarily. As I said, can be having to do with a job, can have having to do with a friendship, or with a project that you really, really invested in, and so on. So that part of you that's you letting go of, that you're forced to let go of, it doesn't go easily. It's going to be drama, it's going to be crying, it's going to be a lot of this. I strongly suggest to be present with that. And of course, this is your challenging position, but this is like the end of this cycle, of this mental cycle. And I see a lot of growth and a lot of progress, and a lot of progress. And Ten of Swords is really, really necessary as the last step for this particular persona that you had to create at some point to finally, be dismissed. You can recognize it as a story. You can recognize it as the hero of a certain narrative that you believed of yourself. But now, you can't identify with that anymore. And it's not easy. It's not easy because it's like this really shoving off a skin. But that's the thing. Like, this was never you, and you're learning that, of course. But that doesn't mean that it's easy. Your focus is something that's truly important, and that is that change is the only constant. Everything changes. Everything is impermanent. This is like at the core of Buddhist teachings, if you're into Buddhism. But also, if you look at anything in a rational sense of the world, everything changes. We are never the same. I'm not the same who I was yesterday for 100 million reasons. Our cells change. We are aging. There's whatever we are attaching ourselves on, these are like phantasmagoric. They're like not real. These are all illusions. And I think that you're getting a good taste of this right now. We all do as humanity. Come on, the whole world is changing, and it's changing in ways that are unpredictable to a certain degree. Of course, we can make certain predictions, but we may always be wrong, or we can be right. That doesn't mean that we don't change with it. We are changing with it. And I think it's a time for choices. Where you're moving next after letting go of all this crap that you've been it's nothing that you did wrong. Don't get me wrong when I'm saying with this crap. You're letting go of something that is a natural process for you to let go of. That's why you need to expand and grow. And yeah, there's a whole new world out there for you. The Wheel of Fortune is also a good omen. Come on, the Wheel of Fortune is called fortune. The thing that you are able to make the choice that's the best for you at this point in time. And maybe that's your focus. What is best for you at this point in time? What is it that you really need? Knowing that the world is impermanent, knowing that you've learned so much from this whole experience of the Three of Swords, allowing your mind to bring that wisdom in without identifying with what you lost. I hope that makes sense. I really hope. Okay, and the Two of Wands, the wisdom of this is that, first of all, you hold your own world, you hold it in your hand right now. And it means also that whatever you are in the position to choose now, don't just like choose anything that comes to you. You take it because you're desperate, nothing like that. Really take your time to make the choice that's best for you. And I think there's some good luck coming your way. It may not be what you would like to design, in a sense. If I'm, for example, out of a relationship, and the moment I'm out and I'm like healing my wounds, all I hope is for another relationship to come in to save me from my pain, or to show me that I'm valuable or unworthy or whatever, to prove the other person wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm just like making up weird stuff now. But instead, you may choose to really learn those lessons from the past and use it to expand a different aspect of yourself, I don't know where that example came in. It's weird, but yeah, well, it's there. Now it's there. Advice you have to, that's why, yeah. It's always there. It's just that I realized it after I say it, where I say it. The Nine of Pentacles with the Queen of Wands. The Nine of Pentacles is a singles card. It's somebody who's very independent, who's been working really hard to be where she is. As somebody who's been, she's got experience. She's got experience. She's been through stuff, and she managed. She's a self-made woman, and there's like prosperity there. There's enjoying the fruits of your labor. That's like divine timing, being involved. Nothing wrong with being in relationships or getting another job or starting another project, but I think it's time for you to really look at how far you've gone, how hard you worked, what do you have in your garden, and allow for divine timing to just take place. And the Queen of Wands is just like super confident woman. She's like very intuitive. It's, as I said, I feel like you're open now to certain messages, maybe deeper messages, having to do with your own life journey and your soul journey. Because the Queen of Wands, she's like the witchiest of them all. She's the mother of beliefs. She's and she like all the queens is driven by the heart. She answers to the call of the heart, and she nurtures the heart, and she harbors the heart. She's like a spiritual nurse, actually, the Queen of Wands. So I think we can use this shedding of the skin that's happening. It's gotta happen. Again, it's up to you of how you're going to take this in. The death is here as your underlying energy, so death is coming anyway. This end, the thing had happened already. It's just that you are having troubles to let go of it mentally. But this is going to help you. This is your advice, right? Like, really enjoy the fruits of your labor. Really stay and enjoy whatever you've learned for yourself, and give yourself that recognition. Like the Queen of Wands, she really owns herself 100%, including her like nobody's perfect, including her imperfections. And she understands more. She goes deeper than most. She's more connected to spirit than most. You have this within your power right now, otherwise it wouldn't be your advice. And enabling yourself to connect yourself with this part of yourself, this energy, it's your surrendering process, and it will make this easier. And it seems that it's going to bring a emotional revolution within you, and you'll probably be able to really own your emotions at a different level. The King of Cups is the fucking master of that. He's the, what they call, king of my castle. He's really feeling everything and feeling it intensely, but without suffering from those feelings, you know. He's able to show his feeling when it's necessary and not show them when it's not necessary, because he knows not how to use the emotions in this sense, more like how to, when are they appropriate, when a show of emotion is appropriate. And judgment, yeah, it's a blank new slate. It's a complete awakening of rebirthing, you know. You get out of this a new person, for sure. Of course, after death and after the Ten of Swords, it's quite a major change in the way you are able to cope with emotions, and it's bringing you to a whole new level of emotional stability. And I think you will be able to love more, love deeper, and love yourself more and deeper, because actually all the things that we suffer from, whether people or jobs or whatever, they're all lessons that I can love myself even though I discover the things about myself that I don't like, or I can still love myself even if I'm the relationship that I wanted doesn't go my way. I can still love myself, and maybe love myself deeper, because I realize when we hit this like rock bottom, like the Ten of Swords, it's when we realize what we've been chasing, what dreams we've been chasing that weren't found outside. That's the moment where we find them within, and it's a glorious moment. It's the most tender moment. It's when our hearts grow a little bit bigger, and they can encompass more of ourselves and of the world. Okay. So to be honest, I find them to be good news, but as I said, not necessarily easy. But you know what? This is your challenge. I'm not telling you future. This is happening for you already. And all I'm saying is that it's leading to something fabulous for you. Gaining your power, gaining your emotional stability, integrating parts of yourself that you didn't like or you didn't understand. And it's this waking up to your different chapter of your soul journey. Okay, let's see what does Rumi say here. With this Nine of Pentacles is your advice, I would also say, like, really get into your body. Like, your mind here is so intense, and this whole process will be like a lot easier if you really start to enjoy your senses. Get into your senses. Really eat good food for yourself. Do the things that you really enjoy. Not long baths. Whatever it is that you can take care. How can you take care of yourself and really truly enjoy the physical world, what can provide for you right now in terms of pampering yourself, you know? That's going to, well, of course, no point would not be to go into emotional eating and excess or things like this. It's more like just coming into your body and coming into your senses in a gentle and pleasant way. Aromatherapy. Getting into the garden and feeling smell the roses. That's way too many, baby. Give me one, please. My dear Rumi. Okay, I'm gonna take this one. The cloak of Christ. Yeah, you need that soothing, that extra soothing that you can get from the energy of love and the energy of unconditional love, really. Okay, I'm gonna read it as it is. If you have resistance to Christ as an entity, as a person, as a history, as a whatever, think of it more as an archetype and the energy that he represents. So, the poem from Rumi says, in the school of humanity, when you become intimate with God, you reside on the king's throne and teach the angels the nature of the divine. You're really getting some very serious, deep lessons here. So you are tired, beloved. Your soul has been ravaged inside and out, and you are succumbing to struggle that is not karmic or necessary, but a symptom of fatigue and weariness of heart, mind, body, and soul. That which plagues you, whether something specific or a general nagging, malaise, or anxiety you cannot quite pin down, is not as powerful as you fear. You are being given a grace where here and now that you may be overcome. Remember, your reactions are a symptom of your exhaustion and a sign that you need respite, sanctuary, restoration. Yeah, that's kind of what this lady is getting here. They are not a sign that something must be done, so much a sign that something must be received, allowed, that something is healing made possible through divine protection. In this instance, protection is bestowed through the cloak of Christ. This cloak is a sacred container that places your body and soul within the loving energy of the Christ consciousness. This unconditionally loving energy is not limited to the being bearing its name, but is shared by Rumi and many other holy ones. It is typified by wholeness. There is nothing within you that could cause the Christ to turn away from you. Not even those parts sorry. I'll say this again. There is nothing within you that you would cause Christ to turn away from you. Not even those parts of you that may fill you with fear, shame, guilt, or regret. That's exactly what we were talking from in the beginning of the reading, remember? When I'm saying that you may see things of yourself that you didn't like so much, and we have the tendency to feel ashamed of them. But there's nothing to be ashamed of. And do invoke this energy of the Christ here. I think it's really on point. He and Rumi are sacred brothers, loving and supportive of each other, and they see your soul as one of their family, one of their own. You are so loved by them both equally and without measure. Of that you make whatever you can. I'm not so into personifying these like deities or whatever, but it's energies and the archetypes. Can you allow yourself to take refuge in this knowledge? Do you feel it not only as an idea, nourishing as that is, but as a visceral reality where you complete the sacred honoring ritual and allow yourself to feel the peace and receive healing? The knowledge of the Christ's unconditional love for you is a safe space, a place to fall into when you are struggling. It is a sacred container for your healing process, an energetic field that is stronger and more enduring than even the greatest fears or doubts. The purpose of this sacred container is to provide you with a feeling of being held, especially for those times when you are feeling that you cannot hold yourself. Sometimes we just need permission to break down, to really let go, to come apart and be disassembled so that we can break through, be lifted up, and come together in a new, more spiritual, coherent, and loving form to move forward. You have Death and the Ten of Swords that are exactly this, like taking you apart. It's again letting go of layers of yourself that do not represent you anymore. Those are usually made out of resistance, fear, and doubt. And I love that, you have the judgment here as well. where it says that you can break through to be lifted up and come together in a new, more spiritual, coherent and loving form to move forward. You see, these people are coming out of the graves and they're wakened up by this angel, which like they're not afraid here. This is salvation for them. They're coming in a completely new form. They're naked. They start anew. For you, this is essential. There is a person, place, thing, or belief that has come to be like a manacle around your wrist, or an iron bow and leg iron, preventing you from moving forward with the grace you have earned spiritually. You are being empowered here to shed that. Don't hesitate. Let yourself be cloaked in the Christ energy and receive the spiritual assistance you deserve now. There is a reason for this. The unfolding of your life purpose is taking a turn for the better, and your energy is required to fuel that new life. This is particularly so if you have also blah blah blah, that's not the case. Just remember that whenever we are asked to release something, it is because the divine wishes to fill our hearts and hands with more. Do not hold on to scraps for fear that the feast will be denied to you. Use your nose. Smell the feast awaiting you. Alright, so as I said, it's all going somewhere, and I know, most of you already know that you're not a victim in this. I know that you know that this is a deep healing that's taking place, and I also know that you're struggling. So I'm going to read the Sacred Honoring Ritual. If you feel called to it, please do it. I've done it before. It does help energetically. So I'll read it for you. Open your arms wide above your head and tip your gaze gently up towards the heaven. If you are inside, imagine or intend that you can gaze beyond the physical structure of the ceiling right into the sky that lies above. Lower your arms to prayer position at your heart and say aloud, if possible, "Rule me and Jesus Christ who love me without condition. Offer me the cloak of the Christ, the mantle of divine protection, now that I may receive the karmic grace and healing I need through the power and mercy of your presence. Thank you." Sit quietly and imagine you are surrounded by a dark, comforting cloak. You can easily breathe through it. You can easily see light within it or filtering through it if needs be. Or you may feel comfortable in the darkness. Let it be whatever is more relaxing and soothing for you. You may even imagine it to be the night sky dappled with stars wrapping around you. Close your eyes and relax now for as long as it feels good. That may be for a minute, for 15 or 20 minutes or longer. Just be with what feels appropriate and best for you at this time. When you feel you are ready to rise from your rest, simply place your hands at your heart and say thank you. You may notice strong energetic sensations or emotions during this process or in the day following. You may notice repetitive thought patterns that you need to confront and challenge with more loving thoughts. You may have significant dreams in the evening following also. It may be very subtle for you, so much so that you wonder if anything has happened and if it had, in quotes, worked. It has. The effect will be demonstrated at the right time. Trust. Alright, Pisces, I hope this is helpful for you. I've been through this. I know it hurts. And your feelings and your fears and your doubts matter. You matter, and you are loved, and you have access to your own deepest wisdom now, and to this like more divine guidance and protection right now. Make use of it. Sending you lots of love. I hope that as I said, I hope this is helpful for you. If it is, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you here probably next month. May our practice benefit all beings.